Hello beauties, welcome back to the vlog. This week we are going to be talking about leadership styles. I went to a leadership seminar a couple weeks ago through the Small Business Development Center and listened to a speaker who was talking with us about how to identify our leadership styles when we are experiencing good stress and when we are experiencing distress. So eustress and distress. And it's interesting, many of the people in the room had dramatically different styles when they were experiencing the good stress and the not so good stress. They'd be one type of leader in one situation and something very different in another. I was pretty even across the categories, and we'll talk about my style toward the end of the week. What we thought we'd do is share some of these styles so that you can get an idea for where you fit in as a leader. And then at the end of this, we'll share a place online where you can take this test and take a look for yourself. So the one we're going to talk about today is the predicting style. And gosh, we have a lot of people here at Lunar that really fit in this style. This is a very analytical person. And what's interesting about this is that in the terms of this test, they talk about strengths and excesses. Now, last week we talked about strengths and weakness, but this says that sometimes we tend to overlean on our strengths. And when we do that and we overuse them and overtrust them, then we go into excess and we try to do too much and don't think through the right way to solve our problems. So someone in the predicting style proceeds really carefully with logic toward practical outcomes. And for an engineer, gosh, that's just a perfect combination. We want someone who's going to be deliberate in their thinking, who's going to have a practical outcome, because we're making magical things on the internet here, right, at Lunar? So we want to make sure that there is something real that comes out of this work. They have a deliberate pace. It's methodical sometimes. This isn't true for all engineers, but it fits this style. You'll also see people who are accountants here. There's different types of leaders that will experience this style too. They really have a priority on tasks. They want to get through a list. If you're a list maker, you might fall into this style. Someone who wants to check something off and feel like you've accomplished something. And a lot of times this person works on their own to solve the problem and then comes back to the group after they've solved the problem, or to ask for help only when they get stuck. So not someone who necessarily works in a team. And some of the other styles, including my own, are more team-based. One of the strengths in this is how they make decisions. So I think this is interesting. Sometimes we don't think of decision making as part of leadership, but I think it's a huge part of how we lead and how we operate and interact with our teams. So they make a database decision, working, and they're willing to slow things down to make sure they truly understand the why behind what they're doing, which for us in engineering is wonderful because we want someone to really be able to provide value. They also manage emotions, and emotions are definitely something that you'll see in some of the other styles, including my own, in terms of when you're in good stress or in an excess situation. So these people are very calm in a crisis. They're not upset by an emotional attack. They don't really rise to someone else getting upset. They just continue on. They really want to preserve what works. This type of person doesn't want to recreate the wheel, right? I've heard a lot of people say that. Let's not build something that already exists. Let's work smarter, not harder. That really fits this style as well. And they're also a planner. They want to reduce risk. They don't want to build something twice. They want to build it right the first time. This fits in. I can think of several people I know in architecture and construction trades where they feel that way. Let's do it right the first time. Let's make sure we planned it. Some people in city planning too there. And then once we know, then they move very confidently forward. They have a good map. They know the plan. They know the timelines. They understand the milestones, and they're ready to move forward. When they're in excess, they may overanalyze and they might get stuck and not act. You know, that paralysis of analysis. I've been there. I don't know about you, but that definitely fits in this leadership style. They also can be seen by their team as detached or uncaring. And this is a challenge for us if someone's really trying to solve a problem and they're interacting with the client and it seems like they don't care, but maybe it's because they're really trying to solve the problem and it has nothing to do with the emotion. And they might be looking at the past, that, you know, they don't want to fix something that still works. They don't maybe want to change. They're happy with status quo. And that could be a challenge too, because you want to work through that. And then, like many people and many of the styles, they have a fear of what's not predictable. And I think this is really interesting, that when they're stressed or when there's a deadline maybe they're not going to meet, or there's something they don't fully understand the why behind it, if they can't predict the behavior, or if they can't predict what's going to happen, if they don't know that future and don't know the plan, then they're very uncomfortable because it's too uncertain. So it's very interesting. We're going to talk more about these styles as we go forward. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the attending style, which is much more team. And I'd love to hear where you think you fall in these and how you, or if you've worked with people who have these styles as well. I'll share mine at the end of the week. And all this week, like I said, send us your questions. We will look forward to talking with you about leadership styles. See you tomorrow.